Um, I would like to share a few thoughts about skepticism with myself. First of all, I would define myself as a philosopher, which can seem quite arrogant because I have not made any formal studies in philosophy. I never was in a philosophy class, but a philosopher is a seeker of wisdom and a seeker of knowledge. And in this sense, except the few wise, enlightened beings on this planet, one could say that every human is a philosopher. And it is not impossible that God, which is our highest principle, has sent us down here on the earth to make a philosophical journey to seek to be reunited with God, because philosophical knowledge is union with God. I have discovered that, and that we are on this earth as long as we have not found knowledge. So we are philosophical wanderers, and we are doomed to wander, to err on this earth as long as we have not found wisdom. That's a possibility. That's the journey of the soul, as one might envision it. But I would like um, to question my own relationship to skepticism. I have not read any book about the skeptic philosophers per se, but I have doubted like a skeptic, and I will illustrate this as examples of the doubters that I am aware of. The more ancient is the Indian philosophy, which teaches us about the Maya, which is a veil of illusion, some sort of like the movie The Matrix. It's a projected world which is illusory, and one must unveil the secrets of the Maya in order to attain the unity with the divine principle. So I'm aware of that, and in my intellectual path, uh, I have imagined that the Maya, if it really existed, and it was really that powerful to deceive and to blur the knowledge and to manipulate in a way, or to confound the knowledge, that it would be possible, if the Maya was real, that the books which talk about Indian philosophy and the existence of the Maya might be part of the Maya. I had this thought. Second, Plato's cave. I doubted, or I believed, that if the myth of Plato's cave was real, it would not be impossible that by contemplating higher truths, by elevating the mind, which I believe I have done in my spiritual path, that the myth of the cave and the existence of Plato in ancient Athens, and the story about Plato's caves, were themselves images projected within the real cave, and that the purpose was to see through the deception and see through the fires and the image dancing on the wall of the cave, and to intellectually elevate oneself to the contemplation of the sun. And that I believed that it might not be impossible that the philosopher Plato and his book The Republic, with the myth of the cave, were themselves images projected within the real cave in which I was trapped. I had this thought. Another um, um, another relationship with skepticism is the famous paradoxes of Zeno, the Greek ancient philosopher, who tried to demonstrate by logical arguments and dialectical thinking that movement was unthinkable. That we see movement, we witness movement and change, but he tried to prove by logical argumentation that actually nothing moves because movement is unthinkable, and that thought is more real than appearances. So I'm vaguely familiar with it, but I also know that modern mathematics has apparently proved that the arrow which is shot on the target, Zeno said that the arrow could never reach the target because you need there's a relationship between the finite and the infinite, and he said that in order to traverse, to go through a finite quantitative determination of space, you need an infinite number of small movement, and it's impossible. So that's quite complex, but yeah, I thought about it, that movement and change are, it's possible to imagine that nothing is moving and that there's only the one of Parmenides and that everything else is an illusion. It's possible to think that. It's possible. I'm not sure that it's very easy and that it's the easiest thought, but it's not impossible. Then there's Descartes, the French philosopher, and I read the Metaphysical Meditations and the Discourse on Method, and he makes a thought experiment in a small room with I don't know how to call it in English, a fired oven, a fire hearth, I don't know, where you make fire to heat yourself. I'm sorry, my vocabulary is terrible. Yeah, so he was trapped in his room and he made a thought experiment, and it's a very famous one in the history of philosophy. He says, I can doubt many things. I can doubt everything which I've been taught since my childhood and my younger years, and I was in the most prestigious schools of Europe, one of the most prestigious schools in Europe, and I have been taught the ancients and philosophy and literature and grammar and logic and mathematics and many sciences, the occult sciences. I have studied them also. He said, I can doubt all this knowledge because it does not satisfy my will to know with absolute certainty. So he radically cast a doubt on the entire knowledge of his time, the beginning of the 17th century, and it was a revolutionary move in the history of thought and the development of European thought and philosophy at large. But he says, I need to find a firm, strong, certain knowledge on which everything else can be deduced and built upon. And he doubted everything, and he said, maybe there is an evil genius, a malevolent deceiver who projects a false world, who makes me think that there is a world, that I have a body, and that there is something outside, but maybe he just wants to trick me. And so I can doubt the existence of the world. I can doubt the existence of my own body, but I cannot doubt that I am doubting. The doubt cannot be doubted. That's a dialectical process. You cannot doubt the doubt. You cannot negate the doubt in a way, because yeah, and to doubt the doubt, to negate the negative, is to assert the most fundamental knowledge in modern philosophy is cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. And or you can skip the therefore. You can just say I think I am. And Hegel praised Descartes for being the one who united the thought, the identity of thought and being, because when you say I am, there's the thought and there's the being, and they are one. So I'm familiar with this view of Descartes, but what personally I did is I tried to be a Cartesian, and in philosophy the purpose is to be faithful to your mentor, to your master, but to overthrow the master, to go beyond and to become yourself a master in a way. That's every student. If he has a good master and if he's a good student, he should set to himself the purpose of becoming better than the master. It's very difficult, but that's the purpose of exchanging knowledge and to be educated and to be taught and to be instructed. So I said to myself, I will be a Cartesian and I will make the thought experiment, and I can doubt everything, including the existence of the 17th century in France. I can doubt that it exists. Maybe it's a delusion. Maybe the philosopher that we name René Descartes, with the pictures we have of him and his books, maybe it's an evil, malevolent genius who projects a false world, making me believe that there was a French philosopher in the 17th century who had an experiment about the existence or the non-existence of the world and doubt and who wanted to build knowledge. Maybe all this is a delusion. I can doubt this. If I am true to myself, I can retreat within my own self and doubt everything. But I cannot doubt that I am doubting. And I have the certainty that I am, and I can distinguish the body that I identify as mine, as an empirical individual, with the thought of pure relation to self, pure identity, pure knowledge of myself as being a thinking entity. And I can doubt that this body really exists. And the comical argument is that what if you feel pain? What if someone inflicts pain upon you? I would say, yes, it feels very real, more real than I could possibly have imagined, but I can still distinguish the thought of myself with the sensation of pain that is being inflicted on my body. I can still be free within my own mind, and that's Stoicism in a way. And yeah. And finally, Hegel in the Phenomenology of Spirit says that doubt, radical skepticism, is a moment in the process of knowledge for the consciousness. And Hegel says consciousness has to doubt everything. So Cartesian doubt, radical skepticism is a moment of knowledge. And if you are true to Hegel, you should say, I can doubt Hegel's philosophy and Hegel's system and even Hegel's existence. It is possible to doubt it. And if I am faithful to Hegel, I must doubt Hegel. And he predicted that in his system, that skepticism was a movement, was a moment in the movement of consciousness. And just one example, Philip K. Dick, who was a very brilliant science fiction writer, a very intelligent man, a fantastic man, a fantastic thinker, but he made an exegesis where he tried to explain a mystical experience that he had, apparently in March of 1974. And in it, he produces some sort of Gnostic knowledge, and he finds partly Hegel's philosophy, but he's a radical skeptic, and at one moment he says, the world is a delusion, and I can doubt the existence of the world. And he identified with God, and he in his writings he says that he wants to abolish the world through his writing, and that he can doubt the real existence of the world, and that everything is delusional. And if I am true to Philip K. Dick, if I am true to his worldview, I can imagine that the exegesis of Philip K. Dick and the life of Philip K. Dick are a moment and are a projection of a deceiving entity, and that I can doubt the existence of Philip K. Dick, and I can make his ideas my own. And the greatest homage and the greatest tribute that I could pay to Philip K. Dick is to adopt his own ideas and say, your view of a delusional reality and your identity with God, it can become my view. It's not impossible to think. And what I noticed is that the more I doubted everything, the more I understood the movement of reality. So the only special aspect of this individual that you see is that I have doubted more than anyone else previously, because I have doubted the existence of all those who have doubted before me. And that's my only quality, if I might say, which is also a curse, because when you start doubting everything, you kind of become insane. But yeah, I am a radical skeptic in the process of my own development. So that's what I wanted to share.